Welcome to Ed Fluential Sports, where passion meets precision. I'm your host, Ed. I'm deep into the plays, players, and stories shaping the game. And this is Sports Fanatic Forum, episode 30. And this is a week that role players dominated. So I'm going to get straight into it, talking about AEW Dynamite. It was two shorts that I made that apparently there was no sound to it, which I didn't realize because the sound for the actual video from the match, I think, yeah, from the matches I had, it was there. So it didn't pick up my sound, so I got to remake those. So the Samoa Joe stuff and the Hikaru Shida stuff, I'll make shorts about after this. So, yeah. But Dynamite, I think it was a good episode. I gave it the same rating that I did last week, 7.5 out of 10, because it was, yeah, MJF, he won his world title back, and then Kevin Knight came out there. Then he started talking stuff because Kevin Knight won. He's a champion now, while MJF lost recently. So that set up a match. Kevin Knight was gonna give him the match last night, but MJF was like, "I'll wait and do it on my time." So that sets up them two next week, and then that makes sense because Darby cut a promo later in the night and basically saying that MJF got to put something on the line to get a rematch. So if that's probably the route they're going. Kevin Knight probably won't have a long TNT title reign. MJF will probably win that title, then it's title for title with them two. So I could definitely see that happening. But yeah, Kevin Knight, he had a few jokes to make with MJF losing his title, and it was whatever. It was a good segment to open the show. Had Brody King versus Leo Rush in a very random match. Had no idea why they were wrestling, but you know what? It's whatever. As long as Brody King get the win, which he did, as he should have, because Leo Rush, like I said, the character, I don't really rock with it. I know some people are buying it, but it don't make a lot of sense to me. That's just me personally. I'm not sold. I'm not bought into this character that Leo Rush is portraying. But Brody King got the win as he should have. This match ain't really have a story. It was a solid match, but it was really no reason for them to be wrestling. It was just showcase Brody King, which I guess is cool, but taking on Leo Rush money, so I'll give him a squash match because it's not like Leo Rush did anything. It's when you look at the sizes of them two compared to each other, Brody King and Leo Rush, like obviously it's wrestling, so size won't always matter, but in this case, yeah. Like we know Brody King is the superior athlete in this situation, and he proved it. He ended up getting the win. Had Adam Copeland, he was backstage. I said Adam Stage. Adam Copeland was backstage. Christian is still out, so they still building that story, playing into Christian being out due to FTR and Stokely. So that was cool. He ain't really said much of the same stuff usually, so it's not bad, not nothing super crazy. And it was just a pretty solid backstage segment. Had Mark Davis taking on Will Ospreay for another match that Ospreay has to go against the Don Callis family. I'm like, man, but it was a good match. Mark Davis delivered some hard shots, did a back body drop, I think. That was early in the match. And then he was just dominating Will Ospreay to the point where Ospreay injured his neck. Well, not actually, but that was part of the story because Mark Davis won via referee stoppage. But then as he was going to take him out post match, because like I said, Don Callis always feuded with Will Ospreay, even though we're well past that. Um, the Death Riders came out there, and then they attacked Ospreay post match, which I'm confused about. I guess it makes sense they want to completely take him out again since he came after them, but it's like you couldn't have had him go up against one of the Death Riders to make this make more sense because it's like the Death Riders and Don Callis family don't like each other. Ah, bit my tongue, but yeah, they don't like each other, so you just did. Because I know you did Osprey versus Pac. You could have did Osprey versus Yuta probably. That would have been fine. I don't know if he was on the show last night. I don't think he was. But that would have made more sense if you're still building the story with him and the Death Riders. Then you get a backstage scenes of Alex Windsor versus Persephone. I know Persephone is in a match. It's like a five-way match coming up soon in Ring of Honor to potentially dethrone Athena for the Ring of Honor Women's Championship. So we'll see what happens there. But I know she's active in CMLL. So that was a cool little tease. Maybe they'll have a match in the future. Maybe they'll tag together. Maybe they'll do both. But I definitely could see them having a dope one-on-one match if it ever leads to that. He had the Hurt Syndicate taking on Chris. No, the Hurt Syndicate was backstage with Chris Jericho, and then there was apparently they in business together because Chris Jericho earlier in the night he got into it with the Demand. They had approached him backstage when he was with Renee, and then later you seen Jericho coming out of the Hurt Syndicate's locker room, and that was just MVP was like it's just business. So I'm guessing Jericho gonna have them to back him against the Demand, so but they'll have an advantage. But actually, MVP probably won't get involved, so they'll probably have a trios match: the Demand versus the Hurt Syndicate and Chris Jericho. So the Chris Jericho Ricochet feud is still going well. I like what they're doing with this, and I'm getting the Hurt Syndicate involved. It's like they ain't come back to do nothing. So and no MVP. It's all about business, and I think this is a good business move. It makes sense. So I'm looking forward to that. Then you had, like I said, Darby's promo was great. Like I covered in the short that I made, and because I'm running through this so fast, I probably covered the other stuff that I didn't. It was two other things I covered, but apparently when I made the shorts, they went out. The sound wasn't there, so I probably just cover it on here. But you had, um, and yeah, I'll just cover it now since we already here. Before I get to the main event, Mina Shirakawa and Hikaru Shida had a really good match. I enjoyed it. I thought though Chris Statlander being there ringside, not knowing whose side to be on, I think that was a nice touch. So we will see. I am ready for Hikaru Shida versus Chris Statlander. I'm liking the slow burn, but I am selfishly impatient and waiting on the match because I feel like Hikaru Shida has to be the heel, and I have no idea what me and Shirakawa was going to be doing next, especially with Tony Storm being out. Because I could have seen them going after the tag titles. I could have seen Tony and Ronda doing something. So I think Tony being out definitely changed plans a little bit. But yeah, that was a good match. Like I said, it was the only women's match on the show. I don't think Tekla was on there. Maybe she'll be on Collision, but I'll be gone on Saturday. But I do wish Tekla could at least got a promo or been backstage or something. But it's whatever. And then you had Samoa Joe taking on some jobber in a return match. Glad to see Samoa Joe back, but like I said, WWE, AEW, TNA, they don't do squash matches right, in my opinion. I feel like it's certain times that you do it, and I feel like they never capitalize at the right time. It's like AEW do it when their stars are coming back, but it's like we already know these people, so why not put them against somebody that's on your Ring of Honor roster who more people may know? Like you're putting them against some local talent. It's like a cool showcase for them, cool check, but I don't think it's honestly worth it. So yeah, and then Samoa Joe hooked and embraced after the match, so we know. I do wish we would have got a segment with Samoa Joe before we got to a match with him because I want to see how he feels about Anthony Bowens trying to get in with the ops. But maybe we'll get that on Collision. Like I said, I won't be home for Collision. I'll be in Pittsburgh for the NFL draft. But yeah, and then now to get to the main event, you had Darby Allin taking on um, Tommaso Ciampa for the AEW World Championship. Well, Darby was defending his AEW World title versus Tommaso Ciampa. And it was a great main event match, some hard hitting stuff. Ciampa ended up bleeding. That's a surprise because usually it'd be Darby that's bleeding in the match, but it was his opponent this time. It was some cool spots, some nice bumps taken in this match. Darby did end up getting the win. He had locked in the Scorpion Deathlock, and as he saw Ciampa was trying to get it out of it, he kept applying more pressure and even locked in another submission, I think, while having that one in. So it just transitioned into something else. Then Ciampa eventually tapped out. Darby Allin retains the AEW World title, but the show didn't end until Brody King came out there. He was like, I just beat up on Leo Rush tonight. I've been aiming at the world title all year. And me and you, we didn't have our battles in the pads. We didn't became friends or whatnot recently, but I still want that title. And Tony Khan approved it. If you're cool with it, me versus you next week. So that's what we're getting. Uh, Darby Allin versus Brody King next week. So I think that's going to be a banger of a match. Darby's definitely going to retain. I don't know how, but he's going to find a way. But yeah, Dynamite, I give it a 7.5 out of 10. It was a good show. Like I said, same rating as last week. So AEW has been consistent. So I like what I've been seeing from them. And now to get into the rankings, I just want to cover each NHL playoff series um, in totality because it was some decent games last night. Not the Flyers and Penguins. I made sure about that. But anyways, it was some good games last night. Like I said, and it's been some good playoff games in general. But I do want to talk about the series that I think have been the best. I'm ranking the series from best to worst. So I'll start at one, then work my way down. So I'm gonna start in the West with the Stars, and it's only ranking each NHL playoff series from best to worst, really based off how entertained I've been. So people, y'all might agree, y'all might disagree, but we'll see. For the first series, for number one, I got the Dallas Stars versus the Minnesota Wild. This has been way more competitive than I thought it would be. Dallas is up 2-1, but it's been a really good series so far. And like I said, um, the first game I think was a shock, and that's what makes it better. The Wild coming out and shocking the Stars, winning 6-1, just having all that momentum in game one, despite being on the road to make it a series. Then the Stars getting back game two, they did win it by two, but the Wild they stayed in it just too little, too late. And then you get to the game last night where they're going to double overtime. So not even one overtime can decide it. And it's the playoffs and the Stars get to win 4-3. And none of them won back-to-back games. But the Wild have showed that they can compete in this series. And I did take Dallas in six. I think. Did I take them in six or seven? I might have took them in seven. But the Wild still in game one was so important. And then how they played in game three, it shows you all that they have a chance of winning in game two, in game four, when they're half home ice again. So I think that's been the best series so far. Number two is the Oilers and Ducks for me. This has been it's tied 1-1, but it's been super high scoring, so it's been a lot of goals within this series. The Oilers won the first game by one goal. They ended up winning 4-3. Then the Ducks came out the gate hot in game two and ended up winning that one 6-4. It was a two-goal margin. It was high scoring, like I said, and I think it was a shock because I don't. Not even a shock because I do think this could be a close series. I do think this is another series that goes 6 or 7. But the taking game one on the road is so important, and they're able to do that, and they did it and they've scored 9 total goals in this series compared to the Oilers 8. So it's been very close when you add the goals of both games. But even like I said, the Ducks they just got out to a hot start, and the Oilers tried to battle back. It just wasn't enough at the end. Number three, I had a Lightning versus Canadians. This has been fun. 1-1 series so far. I like what I've been seeing in this. Both games decided by one goal in both games going to overtime. You can even argue this as the best series. They got another game against each other tomorrow, so they got a little break. But this, and they got a 3-day break. But this has been great. 2 overtime games already to start the series, and I think this could be another close one, and I kind of expect it to be. But this has been fun. Like I said, games one to overtime. Canadians steal game one on the road and put the pressure on. It's not like they stole it by a wide margin. It was like it was close throughout, and then game two was much of the same, going to overtime as well. I think this is the only series with uh that went to overtime in both of the first 2 games. But I could be mistaken on that. But I do think that's been entertaining. And number four, I got the Bruins and Sabres, which I'm surprised that it's at. I'm surprised that it's tied 1-1 at this point. And the Sabres, they won game one at home. They won by just one goal, so it wasn't. It was a close game, and they won in regulation. Then the Bruins came out, and I feel like they shocked me winning that second game, winning 4-2. So I didn't see that happening. I thought Sabres was going to go up 2-0 and win both games at home, but they didn't. And the Sabres keep it competitive. Not the Sabres, the Bruins keep it competitive as they head back to Boston later tonight. So we'll see if they can get anything. Well, y'all will see, because like I said, I won't be able to keep up. But yeah, that's what I have it for. Five, I got the Avalanche and the Kings. Now, this series is 2-0, but it's been really competitive. The Kings, I feel like them having 35 wins being here is kind of egregious. But one game, the second game went to overtime. The score was the same in both games. Ironically, the Avalanche won both of them 2-1. But the reason why I put this one five is because the Kings have competed. Like, this could easily be a series where the Avalanche sweep or win in five. I wouldn't be surprised by that, but the Kings are competing and showing you that they can keep up with this team, and maybe having home ice to be the difference maker, because they won by one goal in both road games to open the series. So with them having home ice on the 23rd and 26th, we'll see if, even if they just win one, then it definitely would have made a difference, because these games have been close. They've competed with them. Obviously, they haven't won, but being able to stay competitive, forcing the game to go to overtime, and not really having to go empty net. So this is a fight that I didn't expect out of the Kings, but they're playing well, so I have to give them credit. Number six, the Golden Knights versus the Utah Mammoth. This series is tied 1-1, but I just don't. Utah just isn't really interesting to me, and then Vegas has less wins but have home ice. So where they have the home ice advantage. The Golden Knights did take game one, winning 4-2, and game three was a little bit more competitive than the Moth won 3-2. But I didn't feel from watching that game it wasn't competitive from start to finish. It felt like the Moth was gonna win it that whole time. So yeah, the Golden Knights, like I said, don't feel like they should have home. They should have the advantage of home ice in this series specifically, with having less losses, which is having less wins, which is why I don't like how the NHL formats the playoffs. But yeah, that's been pretty basic. The Hurricanes and Senators comes in at number seven. As the Hurricanes are leading 2-0, and in the first game it was a shutout. They won the first game 2-0, ironically. So a shutout to start the playoffs, not a good look for the Senators. Then the Senators played much better in game two, sending it to overtime. But the Hurricanes still pulled away, winning 3-2. Maybe with home ice it could be a little bit different, but this is kind of what I expected. The Hurricanes, they're up 2-0. I had them winning in five, potentially a sweep. I'm starting to forget, to be honest, but I don't think it'll be close. So far, I've been right about that because it hasn't been close. And then the worst series is the Penguins and Flyers, in which the Flyers lead 3-0. They stole two games. They stole the first two games on the road. The second game was a shutout. They won that one 3-0 in game two. And so they just went home last night and they won that 5-2. So they dominated in games two and three. Game one was closest. They won 3-2. But aside from that, man, this series ain't been fun. A fun watch. When you're on the verge of a sweep, it's usually on the verge of a sweep. It's usually gonna be last. So they're on a three-game losing streak. That includes, actually, they've lost. The Penguins have lost their last five games, and two heading into the playoffs. And these three here, while the Flyers haven't lost in their last five, and two to end the regular season, and now three being up in this series. But the Flyers will probably sweep, if not win, in five. I thought this would have been more competitive. I didn't see a sweep coming out of this. I did have the Flyers winning, but a sweep, maybe they don't. Maybe the Penguins can win, but it just seemed like the Penguins don't got no more fight in them. So we'll see in 2 days if they're able to do anything. But it's been rough going for this team. So we'll see. But yeah, if I had to rank each NHL playoff series from best to worst, and that's how I would rank it. Number one, I got the Stars versus Wild. That's the Stars lead 2-1. And two, the Oilers versus Ducks, which is tied 1-1. And three, the Lightning versus Canadians, also tied 1. Versus Sabres, tied 1-1. Five, Avalanche versus Kings. The Avalanche lead 2-0. Six, Golden Knights versus Mammoth, tied 1-1. Seven, Hurricanes versus Senators. Hurricanes lead 2-0. And eight, Penguins versus Flyers. Flyers lead 3-0, on the verge of sweeping. So that is that's my ranking for how it from best to worst. That's how I do it. And then ice cold. And as I already had this prepared, they want to go ahead and win their game last night, but that don't mean that they still suck. The New York Mets are 8-16. The New York Mets are 8-16, which I think is the worst. That's the worst record in the MLB. They also had a worse record in the National League East. They're tied with the Phillies, but the Phillies had a tiebreaker. I don't really know how, but that's whatever. The Phillies are also on a losing streak themselves, but the Mets had just lost 12 straight before their win last night, and let's have a minus 26 point differential, which is or run differential, which is nasty. Now, let me preface this by saying I do know that they have injuries such as Jorge Polanco and Juan Soto. They've both been out multiple games with injuries, so that definitely plays into the struggles that this team has had over these last couple of weeks. So I can't ignore that. But at the end of the day, if you're cold, you're cold, and the Mets have been ice cold because they just haven't gotten wins. I mean, look, they lost multiple series. They lost the series to the Diamondbacks, the Athletics, the Dodgers, which you expect, the Cubs, which isn't crazy, and then they just won versus the Twins. Or won and one versus the Twins. So we'll see if they can beat the Twins later tonight at 7:10 Eastern. But yeah, this team just hasn't been good. They in the it was multiple games. Well, it was two games where they gave up 10 or more runs, and it wasn't even in any of the Dodgers games. It was to the Athletics and the Cubs where they gave up over 10 runs in a game. And then also in the Cubs game was the only game. That was the first game they went to extra innings since their win over the Diamondbacks on April 7th. They had won that 4-3 in extra innings. And then they went to extra innings again on April 19th, like I said, versus the Cubs, which they ended up losing 2-1. So they lost in the 10th inning there. But yeah, and this team's just been a rough watch. Like I said, the injuries, it does play a factor because you lose two big pieces in Juan Soto and Jorge Polanco. So they're definitely big pieces on that team. They have a huge impact. So missing them isn't good. Obviously, it's going to suck to not have them. But at the end of the day, you still got to find a way to string together a few wins, and losing 12 straight to now it's at the point where you're the worst team in the MLB, which nobody expected. It's like you're tied with the Phillies, who people expect you to be better than the Phillies, but the Phillies have the advantage. They got the tiebreakers, so you finally win against the Twins, who I don't think that's doing nothing impressive, especially considering you just lost to them the game before. So, which I do want to see, because I didn't see this game versus Twins, because this, like I said, this is already prepared before that happened, before that loss happened, before that win happened. It's like this is already prepared. I just want to see what the pitching was like in this game. Holmes pitched in 7 innings, gave up a home run, 5 hits, and 2 runs. Had a 2.10 ERA. Weaver he pitched a 1.1 inning. He only gave up 1 hit. Had 3 strikeouts. Had a 5.4 ERA. Okay, that's pretty good. But 4-7 at home. That's the Mets. Yeah. Like I said, the injuries, like of course that sucks, but it's just some other things that you just have to be better at. Like Francisco Alvarez, he just hasn't been great. You have a guy leading your team in batting average at a point uh 254. Then Francisco Alvarez, I do give him credit for having the most home runs, but just four. Nobody else can be up there with him. Then Bo Bichetti, he got 9 RBIs, and I feel like I've seen guys with way more RBIs than that, which is crazy. Because it's like that's, especially this deep into the season, seems like 9 RBIs isn't something crazy. Maybe it could be, but yeah, 9 RBIs isn't crazy. When you got multiple guys in the top five with 22 or more, Jordan Alvarez leads in RBIs with 26. And it's like, I'm not saying he got a lead, but at least you get something. And who's the home? Jordan Alvarez. You got Aaron Judge. You got 9 home runs on the year. So this team just hasn't been great. Bo Bichetti do got the most hits on the team at 22, which the most hits, which is multiple guys with 30 hits already on the season. So Francisco Lindor, I feel like could be better. He's been solid, but like I said, the batting average for this team just isn't good overall. Like nobody is really batting super crazy for this team. You got the unfortunate injuries. Um, Marcus Simon, he has 19 hits, just 4 runs to show for it. He does have 8 RBIs. Like that's done. When it comes to RBIs, this team has been great. Like Bichetti 9 RBIs, Marcus 8. Then you got 3 guys with 7 RBIs, so they've been solid there. And then pitching wise, that's innings pitched. Nolan McLean, he's given up 2 hits per inning essentially because he's pitched in 30 innings and he's gave up 15 hits. He's only gave up 2 home runs though, which isn't bad. Which I think that's actually one of the lower numbers on the team, but it's multiple guys who are giving up 2 home runs. As uh, Freddie Partella and Cody Singer, they're both giving up 4 home runs. So pitching hasn't been great either. And this team has just struggled. Clay Holmes has been their best pitcher this year, but that's not really saying much because their pitching, like I said, it hasn't been good in general. And this team has just been really bad. Um, Fielding wise, I don't even know if it matters because that's just how bad the team is. It's like, and then when you look at them, like I said, they are. I can't see overall because I know they got the worst. No, well, I retract my statement from earlier. They don't have the worst record. The Kansas City Royals have the worst record of 8-17, while the Mets are second worst at 8-16. And then the Mets have the worst record in the National League at 8-16, tied with the Phillies, who, like I said, have the tiebreaker over them and haven't lost. They've lost 8 straight, but not 12 straight. Like I said, they're 1-12 in their last 13 games. You see it on the caption. So yeah, it's been a struggle bus all year for them. And it's like they're so far, so deep out the playoffs. It's like you have, and then there's teams that are worse, that have a worse point run differential than them, but they just can't win games. And it shows like how much that those two, Jorge Polanco and Juan Soto, mean to the team. But you can't just rely on them to. Your other players got to step up. The Kansas City Royals minus 35, Phillies minus 50, White Sox minus 29. That's just to name a few teams that have worse run differentials, but are in that same category as the Mets. So, yeah, the Mets, can they bounce back? I mean, sure. Will they? Probably not. I mean, it's still time. It's like they're 8.5 games behind the Braves, who are first, and then the Marlins are still second. They're at 12 and 13. So it's only one team in the National League East who's over 500, which is the Braves. So really, don't even worry about the Braves. Just try to catch the Marlins, which is an achievable goal. The Marlins are only 12 and 13, while you're 8 and 16. So they win last night. Hopefully, that brings together some momentum for them going forward. But this team has been a really rough watch. Like this team, not it. Like this team right now, they wouldn't be able to make the playoffs. They would lose in the wild card round with ease. So yeah. So also the National League East is just really bad. The Central, all 5 teams have a winning record. Then in the West, you got the 3 teams with a winning record. and the Padres have the same record as the Dodgers. That's actually crazy. And yeah, that's wild. What? But yeah. Anyways, moving on to the prediction gauntlet. What's gonna happen in the NFL draft this week, which I will be attending. So it's just 10 predictions that I got, and I'm gonna run through those predictions and talk about what I think is gonna happen in the NFL draft because a lot could happen, and I think some of these might be surprise picks. And some of these is things that can happen later in in the summer, but I feel like some of these moves is just worth it to make it now. So, with that being said, and speaking of moves that will be worth it to make it now, I think the Eagles trade AJ Brown to the Patriots at the deadline. I know it's been talked about waiting until June 1st, but I feel like you can get a pick now, secure that for the Eagles, and get rid of AJ Brown because all the locker room drama, the controversy surrounding him. It's like if we trade, like I'm not mad at us trading AJ Brown. I think it makes sense, and we've been deep in the wide receiver room. So we trade him to the Patriots now. Like I know the Patriots might not want to do it due to contractual issues, stuff like that. But I think, but if the Eagles see an offer that's even better than what the Patriots may be offering, they could get rid of him now. But that's why I say if I'm the Patriots, if you're the Patriots, you gamble now and don't wait till that June 1st deadline because it's just safer. Maybe you trade away a pick to get him, but you just went to the Super Bowl, so you won't regret anything, and you sign well, not sign anybody, but you're losing Stephon Diggs more than likely because there's no idea if he'll be back playing at all. So I think that's just a move that you had to make. My second prediction, I think Jeremiah Love slips. I know he's projected to go super high in the draft, but when I look at some of these teams, it's like they have other positions that they need to target and go after, and I just don't think it's certain like the Tennessee Titans. Like I know it'll be a nice addition, but you already got Pollard, Tajay Spears, and there's other issues you can address before getting a third running back for the Cardinals. Like yeah, you got James Conner, and you probably could use another solid back, but you need an edge as well. So if I'm and you have a number 3 pick, so if I'm them, I go edge. So I see Jeremiah Love slipping unless the Seahawks traded to the top 10 because the Seahawks just lost their Super Bowl MVP Kenneth Walker to the Chiefs. So they're gonna be bringing back Zach Charbonnet, but who's gonna be backing him? You could trade up into that top 15, top 10, then get Jeremiah Love to add to that core and an already winning franchise, a team that was just in the Super Bowl, and in hopes of trying to getting back to the playoffs at minimum. So I think that's the only way he doesn't slip, but I can't see him slipping because some of these teams, it's like they have other issues they need to address. And some of them already got the running backs. Like the Chiefs, I thought the Chiefs was going to get Jeremiah Love, but they got Kenneth Walker, so they won't need Jeremiah Love now, unless they wanted that duo. But I'm pretty sure they still got Isaiah Pacheco. I could be wrong, but yeah, I think that'll be smart. So like I said, they don't need him now. So now this the Browns, I think they're gonna make a really dumb decision. I see the Browns jumping on a quarterback, potentially Ty Simpson, and it's not even, and it's like based off what they did last year, it's like they don't even trust each other as an organization because there was controversy over Shador or Dylan Gabriel, and they picked both of them for some odd reason. So now you have two rookie quarterbacks playing on your team, so it's going to be hard for really either one to get minutes. And then they're both sitting behind Joe Flacco, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's like now you're forcing them into these roles where it's like they didn't really get much time to develop. So you're just throwing them right into the fire. So yeah, I think they gamble, go high, take a quarterback, hoping that he'll be the answer. Because I don't think they trust Shador, and then they'll see that Ty Simpson isn't the answer, but he also isn't the problem. So then it's a tough decision. It's like, do we keep Simpson or Shador? It's gonna be like this is y'all fault for not drafting what you needed. So that Cleveland organization don't trust them one bit. Next, I think Casey Concepcion goes in the top 20. I know it's projected late first round, but I can see him. It's 3 teams I can see getting a receiver, which is the Rams, Panthers, or Jets. I think any 3 of those teams will be great fits for him, especially the NFC teams because they're already playoff poised for a playoff push. Now the Jets, they probably won't be in the playoffs, but depending on who they get, maybe they can turn things around a little bit. But I do think they'll need a receiver. Garrett Wilson was their best receiver, and he barely played last year. He was still leading them in multiple stats and categories, despite not playing much. Yeah, he didn't play much last year. So I think Concepcion goes in the top 20, either the Rams, Panthers, or Jets. And if they don't have a top 20 pick, I can see them trading up to that to get him in the top 20. So, and I think he's going to be great wherever he goes because I think Concepcion is nice. He got a nice work ethic. So we'll see what happens. Now, another trade, I think the Broncos trade their second round pick for any available tight end. Um, because that was where they struggled last year. They just need a more reliable tight end. Because you could draft the tight end, but is it a guarantee that you get that guy in the second round? It's like somebody who's, I feel like not Brock Bowers because he's in a Brock Bowers archetype, something like that. It's something I can see the Broncos going after. Like I said, that's why I said who's ever available. Like I could see them trading, like if a Dallas Goddard just became available out of the blue, like that'd be something that they need to jump on. Now, I hope we don't do that. I hope we keep Dallas Goddard, but that could be just something that comes out of the blue. And then now you have a tight end to add to that core. So I do think the Broncos have to get a tight end, and you could trade your pick for the best available tight end, assuming somebody or hoping somebody makes a call to you for that to go through. Now for the next, I think the Bengals are going to draft multiple offensive linemen. They traded for Dexter Lawrence. Now you can go cheap and get some offensive linemen through the draft. It's not a guarantee that they'll be good, but it is a guarantee that they'll help you improve, and it'll be something because you don't really have that now by making the trade for Dexter Lawrence, and now you don't really have money. So you got to find a way to protect Burrow. Even if they're rookies, it's going to be worth it to do that. For the Dolphins, I see them in the first round. I think they traded to the first round and target Makai Lemon. I do think Makai Lemon is going to fall due to his draft workout stuff, not draft workout, but media stuff. Yeah, I do think he's going to fall because of that. But I do think he can land in Miami, which isn't a great situation. But I think he's like I feel people saying, well, he want to go to a contender. I don't think he gets that dream. I don't think he gets that goal of going to where he wants. I think he goes to a struggling Miami team, and he probably instantly becomes the one because I think Tyreek Hill is gone after this season. Tyreek Hill probably won't even play, and I think he might be a free agent. I could be mistaken about that. And then you have the keeping it in the AFC East. I think the Bills trade for a receiver. I don't really know who's available, but if they get like a Amari Cooper type, somebody like that, I can see them going after him, like um, somebody like a Devontae Smith variant or something like that, or maybe somebody like a Devontae Smith who's like a bit bigger. Like I can see them going after that because the Bills still don't need a receiver because they shouldn't be the way that they played versus the Broncos in the playoffs. It's like yeah, they definitely need a receiver. So if you don't trade for somebody, like I said, not sure who's available, but it's gonna be some trades on draft day, and I think the Bills is gonna be one of those teams. The Bears, they just gotta address defense throughout the draft. That was where they struggled last year. Had a lot of high scoring games, and then this is high scoring. And some of these games, it was like you just shouldn't be having high scoring games with these teams, even if you do pull out the win. So I think the Bears just they address defense however they can, draft the best, whoever's the best defender available, regardless of position. Yeah, they're gonna take him. That's what I feel like their goal is. And then last week for the Panthers, I think they're gonna look for corner depth. Obviously, I do think they can get some Concepcion in the top 20, but after that, I think for the rest of the draft, they just look for corner depth because they did struggle in that area last year, and it would have been super valuable in that Rams game to potentially upset the Rams, so they can target a good corner to add to that defense. And I think this team is in prime position to make another push to the playoffs, win the division, and potentially win a first round game because they were competitive. They did put the Rams on. They put the NFL on notice. The Rams had a tough time. It wasn't an easy game. They still pulled through. So you got to give credit where credit is due. But it was not easy. So yeah, those are my predictions for the NFL draft. Like I said, I will be there. So I don't want. I'll find out what I'm doing today, but I am volunteering at the NFL draft, so I'm excited for that. Looking forward to it. But with that being said, we can move on to the impact stat, which is Josh Hart is second in rebounds per game in the NBA playoffs. I'm gonna recheck that because I don't know if it changed based off of what based off of the games last night. Yeah, he's still second. Nothing changed. Um, yeah, he's second in rebounds per game for the playoffs, which I think is really impressive, especially at Josh Hart's size, like 6'4", 6'5", something like that. Obviously, Jokic is first, averaging 14 rebounds per game. So doing what he did in the regular season, carrying that into the playoffs as he was the leader in rebounds and assists. I wonder if he's still leading in assists too. Now LeBron is leading. LeBron and Drew Holiday leading in assists, while Jokic is third. But yeah, then Jokic doing what he did in the regular season, carrying that into the playoffs, like I said, averaging 14 rebounds per game. But Josh Hart is second, averaging 13.5 rebounds per game, which is really great because those rebounds are super important when it comes to either closing out possessions or creating extra possessions. Like it's super important to get extra rebounds because that just extends the game, keeps it going, and that's super important. Like when you look, and he's one of three players that's averaging double digit rebound was because Jokic is averaging 14 rebounds per game, Josh Hart is averaging 13.5 rebounds per game, and Jason Tatum is averaging 12.5. There's a few guys averaging 9.5, but I don't feel like rounding up. So you got three guys that are averaging double digit rebounds per game in the playoffs, and one of which is a center, one's a power forward. Then the other guy, I guess you could consider a small forward, even though he can really play any position. I feel like he plays 2 through 4. Yeah, 2 through 4. Some nights he's shooting guard, some nights he's small forward, some nights he's power forward, regardless of his size. He had 14 rebounds in game one, which they won, and 13 rebounds in game two, which they lost. So as you see, win or lose, he's still getting you those rebounds. So it's not like some crazy margin. And he also did this while staying out of foul trouble. So no over the back calls, nothing like that. He only had 4 total fouls throughout these 2 games, 2 in each. So you don't got to worry about benching him due to him having too many fouls or nothing like that. So, and he had double doubles in both games, so also scoring in double digits while getting you the double digit rebounds. So you got to give credit for that, as Josh Hart has keep them in this series. They should be up 2-0, but but it's a tie series. The Knicks and Hawks, they're both tied 1-1 with each other. So it's been a great series so far. The Hawks were competitive in game one, and then but the third quarter just third quarter takeover by the Knicks, and then game two they competed, and the Knicks won the rebound battle in both games. Ironically, obviously winning the rebound battle isn't the deciding factor. What wasn't the deciding factor in game two? Not even game one really. It can be the deciding factor. It hasn't been in this series, but a lot of that goes to Josh Hart, and to his credit, as the Knicks won. They won the rebound battle 45-40 in game one. Then they won 45-36 in game two as far as rebounds goes. So they have been able to win the rebound battle, and Josh Hart has been a leader in that, securing the most rebounds for the team, securing some of the most rebounds in the playoffs in general, with 27 total through 2 games. So you have to credit Josh Hart for how good he's been on that end. Not even that, just scratching the glass in general. I think that's something you got to shout him out for because he's just been doing his thing. If you see me dozing off, I'm super tired and I had to wake up early. So, yeah, but Josh Hart, he's been doing his thing. Yeah, this might end up being a shorter podcast episode because, like I said, it's because this is unplanned. Well, it was planned, but I got to go out of town. So, yeah. But this is gonna be a shorter podcast episode because I'm gonna just move straight into the athletes of the week. 'Cause I don't got too much more to say about Josh Hart aside from his rebounding has been phenomenal. He's been doing a great job rebounding, so got to give credit where credit is due. But yeah, this is gonna end up being one of the shorter podcast episodes. because once I do athletes of the week, I'm gonna just end it and then get some more, get a couple of posts out, then call it a day, call it a weekend. Probably I won't be able to get anything else out after 7. So 7 a.m. by the way, because I got a dip at that time. But let's move into athletes of the week. Um, for the NBA, I went with Luke Kennard. Um, the Lakers are currently up 2-0 on the Rockets, and that's due to Kennard averaging 25 points, 2.5 assists, 5 rebounds, 1.5 steals, while shooting 67% from the field, 72% from three, and 80% from the free throw line. For the NHL, along with Scott Wedgwood. For the Colorado Avalanche, that won 2-1 in both games, 1-2 versus the LA Kings, and he had 50 save. And in both games, his totals were 50 save attempts, 48 saves, 2 goals against, and a 96 save percentage. So absolutely phenomenal display of goalkeeping by Scott Wedgwood. For the MLB, I went with Mason Miller. He's the relief pitcher um, for the Padres. They went 3-0 in the games that he played this week. He only pitched in 3 innings, but he had 21 saves and he had 7 strikeouts. For the PBA, I did the winners of the PBA Roy Foreman doubles, which was AJ Chapman and Zach Wilkins. They went 3-0 this week and didn't really seem to struggle. For Leo Golf, I went with John Rahm. He won the Mexico City tournament with a -21. And was the only golfer with a -20 or better. For the MLV, I went with Cameron Turner out of Grand Rapids Rise. They went 2-0 this week, winning both games in 4 sets versus the Indy Ignite and the Columbus Fury. In those 2 games, she had totals of 7 points, 3 kills, 13 total attacks, 22 digs, and 96 kills between those 2 games. And if you notice, the common theme with this podcast episode is role players dominate the week. So when I mentioned Josh Hart and what he's been able to do in the previous segment and the impact stat, when I mentioned some of the this is mainly just for the athletes of the week segment where I'm saying that the role players dominated because Mason Miller, like I said, he's the relief pitcher. He's not the star guy of the Padres. AJ Chapman, Zach Wilkins, they not the most known bowlers. Like people know them, but they're not the most known guys. Now John Rahm, he is one of the best golfers in the world, so he's doing his thing. Cameron Turner, no, not nine. I think I said 96 kills. That's supposed to be 96 assists, not 96 kills, 96 assists. So she's been setting up her teammates really well. Another role player because those assists that really goes unnoticed of being able to set your teammates up really well. That goes unnoticed. So I mentioned her. Then a couple of the wrestlers I mentioned aren't like crazy names. It's like yeah, really just 2 of them are main eventers, and really 2 is pushing it because one he's not in the main event now, but he's still doing his thing. So for WWE, I went with Penta, who retained the IC Championship at WrestleMania in a dope ladder match, probably the best match of that night. It was well timed, had some cool spots, had some great bumps. For AEW, I went with Tekla. She had a women's world title match versus Alex Windsor last Thursday at Spring Breakthrough. That was a great match, and Tekla ended up retaining her championship. Did have to get a little underhanded to retain, but she's a heel, so as she should. For New Japan, this is who I was referring to, a French main eventer since he's not main eventing currently, but Zack Sabre Jr. defeating Fiorinu Abe at Death Vegas Invitational. So everybody was in Vegas this past week. Zack Sabre got a great win. Yeah. Then for TNA, I went with Jada Stone, who defeated Tasha Steelz on Impact for a second time. So she went over once again. So yeah, not no like I said, Tekla main eventer Zack Sabre Jr. French because he's not main eventing now, but he has in the past. Penta currently mid card dominating. Then Jada Stone, mid card non-title mid card feud, but she continues picking up some wins. But yeah, the caption or the title just plays into this segment for athletes of the week and Josh Hart stuff. So with that being said, leave a like on this live, subscribe to the channel, comment your thoughts, and then I'll have a few posts out following this, but y'all probably won't see no content from me until Sunday again, Just like I said, I will be going this weekend for the NFL draft.